Thank you all for tuning in.
The following is a presentation of Bald Spots Productions.
Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people.
Yes, it is I, your humble host, Bill Hatch the Third, coming to you live from the Palatial Home Studios, Bald Spots Productions, here in the beautiful city of Malden, Missouri. Joining me from a more than acceptable safe social distance through the miracle of telephony is my very special guest for this very special episode of Not Quite After Midnight, David Corsini. Yay! How you doing, David?
Everything's great. How are you, Bill?
I'm doing pretty good. You're on the West Coast, right?
East Coast.
East Coast.
Jersey
okay.
side.
Jersey. Okay, so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all that good stuff.
Of course. That's the only place where we have enough toxicity to create some mutant turtles.
That's right. Well, I don't know. I was out in the LA region not too long ago, and we got some pretty good toxicity going out there too. So
Sure.
maybe more toxic frogs than turtles, but anyway,
I know they like search for those in LA.
Yeah, we do. Or grunions. They do have grunions out there. So on occasion.
Yeah.
But so I like to start the show with a particular question. Who are you reading?
Who am I reading? David Data.
Who are you reading? David Data. And what's the title of the book?
The Way of the Superior Man.
The Way of the Superior Man. Ooh, sounds very Nietzschean. What's the big takeaway?
Well, it's not my first time reading it.
Okay.
Essentially, I think it's the best book for actually either sex to understand both energies of masculine and feminine.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So second time reading it. Second time in a while, or are you just rereading it right away?
I think I went through it twice last year, so this is the third time, and it's after a year. I usually, if it's a good book, I'll go through it multiple times.
Sure. Yeah. A good book is definitely worth reading multiple times. I know my father goes through the good book once a year, at least. So,
yeah.
But I do another show during the week. Although we're on a hiatus right now with my father on the Bible. We try to relate it to people's daily lives today and get some good topics going. But yeah. I myself have not been reading anything. I'm kind of getting ready to go back to school, so there's going to be plenty of reading coming down the road. What was the last book I read? Was oh, good Lord, I honestly don't remember. That's terrible of me. So I can't answer the question I can't answer the question in return. We are reading Dear God, I Have a Question by Catherine Slattery. So there is that, and it's an interesting book. It's kind of approaching biblical topics from a child's perspective, but as we're doing it in the show, we're trying to add adult perspectives to it and adult information, grown-up information, I guess, stuff that would be more meat than milk. But
interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting book. Goes through all the little topics you might have had a question about as to how the Bible relates to daily life, and people are often surprised how much it does relate. And
I mean, there's a reason why it's lasted the test of time.
That is true. That is true. Although publishers seem to be more interested in selling the book than having people actually read it.
They can't promise people reading it, but they can promise people buying it.
That is the truth. And so yeah, well, let's get to it because we are doing a very special episode now. Now, what is the activated potential?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I believe we all have a really incredible potential inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're born with this. As we start to grow older because of our parents, because of society, because of everyone in our environment, we sometimes take our potential and we start to just box it in and throw it in a cage, throw it in a box, lock it up, throw away the key, and we're like, oh, there we go. I'm just going to do whatever everyone tells me to do. So I believe having potential is cool, but activating that potential is way more cool. Yeah. So I know I started my entrepreneurial journey getting into real estate, and I started off being pretty successful in my 20s early on. But I felt like I had this hole or this void where my chest was, and I was trying to fill it with commission checks and women and alcohol and partying. And there was a little voice inside my head that was like, you're more than this. You're more than this. I'm like, all right. And I kept hearing like, you've got more potential. You've got more potential. So I was like, all right, well, show me this potential. And I ended up at a Tony Robbins event. And all he talks about is potential. So I got hooked. And then I ended up at an event in Fiji. And one of my buddies there that I met there was telling me, you know what, David? Everything Tony Robbins says is NLP. Right. And I was like, oh, what's NLP? He's like, neuro-linguistic programming. And I was like, I still have no idea what you're talking about. So he was like, the words you use program your mind. And I was like, I mean, I guess that makes sense. And in my mind, I was thinking, well, if Tony Robbins, and for those who don't know who Tony Robbins is, he's the #1 business strategist, motivational speaker in the world. And he's helped over 50 million people. When presidents or billionaires need help, they call Tony Robbins. Right. So I was like, I mean, presidents and billionaires are calling him and he's using this NLP thing. There's got to be something to it. So I did what any sane person would do. And during 2020, in the thick of the pandemic, I think in June, I went to an in-person event to study NLP. And started to learn a lot about the mind and how it's programmed. And I started to realize it's not that like I didn't know what my potential was. It's that I had locked it away. And I had done so through the programming I was running with my mind. And as I started to understand more and I started to release some of those boundaries, my potential started to become activated. And I realized that I had gone through that pain to get to a point where I realized that whole journey was actually my purpose in life. And I was meant to help others do the same thing. So when I named my company the Activated Potential, I believe potential is great, but potential is not yet power. When you activate your potential is when you start to unleash your power. And I mostly work with business individuals because I believe you need a mix of business strategy and personal strategy, aka personal development, to level up your life.
Yeah. No, it's funny that you say that you talked about that it starts out as a child. We've talked about on the show before that back when we were all children, there wasn't anything we couldn't do or we couldn't become. That was, you go back far enough, we were all cowboys and astronauts and firefighters and whatever. And then slowly but surely it all gets kind of etched away and we get locked into the little box, and teacher, whether, like you said, whether it's parents or teachers or society, we're all whittled down into to fit into a little box where we all become accountants and lawyers and all the boring stuff in life. Although I know some people who are very excited about those things, and that's their potential. But it's not everybody's potential to be the boring. I mean, what's his name? Oh, that's terrible that I can't remember his name. Talks with a
The
stutter,
investor
comedian. No, 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 no.
talks.
The like 90 some odd year old comedian. No, not Dick Van Dyke. Bob Newhart was originally an accountant and realized his potential to become a world renowned comedian. Had two long running TV shows and is world famous for his stand up comedy. And all, and it's like it wasn't his potential to be an accountant. It's somebody's potential to be an
Nope.
accountant, but it wasn't his, and it's not mine. Try doing the
On my,
business degree.
I was good at accounting in college, and when I
Mm-hmm.
realized what immediately after college, if you want to get into an accounting firm, you have to do auditing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I ran the opposite.
Yeah.
Because I had seen an audit being done, and I was like, no way I'm doing an audit. It doesn't matter what you pay me, I'm not doing an audit.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you were talking about the kids, they actually did an experiment with kids and put them kind of in these rooms where they had to figure out certain problems. And they were, I believe, like between 5 and 7 or so.
Okay.
And they had to do some problem solving. So they took two groups. One was normal, and the other ones they gave capes, and they actually let them wear uniforms like whatever superhero they like. Okay. So if it were Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Green Lantern, whoever it is, the kids that were able to wear the uniforms and pretended like they were the superheroes had about a 30% higher chance of solving the problems across the board.
Wow. So the nerds are victorious once again.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So take us through your usual process. What's a session with you like?
Oh, so I do a lot of custom stuff because I believe everyone's different, and wherever they're at is completely different. I mean, you're in a different place than where you were a year ago, so right. If I had created a plan for you back then, it probably wouldn't work for you now. But I would say the number one thing you've got to do first before you can do any work is kind of realize what box your potential might be in. And I believe most of us feel some sort of disconnection with ourselves, with our truest self. And especially in business, there are many people wearing many masks. They feel lonely. They feel unfulfilled. They feel fake, honestly, and they might be surrounded by tons of people, but they feel isolated. And it's because they're actually disconnected with their truest essence. So I guess my process is, one, reconnecting someone to who they truly are. That little kid, before the parents told them they couldn't do shit, before the teachers called them stupid, before society did whatever they did to them, get that out and then start to express from that place, starting to learn how to operate from who you truly are instead of all of these patterns and habits that you've been running, these behaviors that you've essentially put on like a uniform, but that aren't truly you, right? One of the things I realized is back in those days that I was talking about, I had trouble staying at home more than 2 nights in a row. I would get massive anxiety. And it's because I was so disconnected from who I was that if I sat with myself, I would start to realize these things. And I just went out, partied, hung out with women, did whatever, got drunk all the time, anything to just distract myself.
Sure.
Now, we all distract ourselves differently. Some people can be a workaholic. Like, they've created a job, and I love entrepreneurs that say they are their own boss, yet work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound like you might be working for yourself, but you're not really, you've created a job for yourself, right? And so people do it different ways, and kind of realizing which way you do it and getting to the root problem, the root cause of, I believe we all have a sponsoring thought that all our other thoughts grow out of. It's like the root. And if you know how trees are, their roots are all interconnected by fungi, but it's all interconnected on the bottom. But if you get rid of what's going on underneath the ground, eventually those trees would just die.
Yeah.
So if you get, one of the things I realized for myself is I didn't believe I was free, like at a deep sense, not because of my environment. I had actually created my environment to not being a freeing one because I did not feel free. And most of us don't we try to do more to create more freedom,
Right.
when in fact we are being free, which is creating us to doing more, to having less freedom. And until we change who we are, because we're born free. We're taught to not be free. We're born safe. We're taught to not be safe. So when I say get back to who you truly are, getting back to that sense of having that freedom or that safety or that worthiness. And then once you can embody that, you start to operate, and you don't need to think about doing certain things that someone who's free or safe would do. You just naturally do it. One of the things, the biggest example I can give is Oprah. Now, I don't know about you, Bill, but I love Oprah. I think she's
Everybody loves
single-handedly.
Oprah.
Everyone loves Oprah. She's charming, charismatic. I think she single-handedly started to raise the consciousness of the average American, because she's exposing people to all these things they wouldn't have otherwise experienced. And Oprah has lost weight and put on the same weight more than a dozen times at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know Oprah personally, so I can't say what's going on. Based on what I know, she has created goals. She has created plans, strategies to achieve those goals. She's actually followed through doing all the things that she needed to do. She's achieved, she had that goal as a success, but her beingness wasn't there. So every single time, she would self-sabotage and revert back because she focused on let me do my way out of my being. We're human beings, we're not human doings. So what I see a lot of people doing in life is trying to do more so then they can end up being whatever they want to be. But really, you've got to be something first because the doing naturally comes after. It's instead of pushing through, it's like you're being pulled to do it.
So to go back to the childhood stuff, I meant to ask, what were you going to be when you were a kid? What was your big thing?
I wanted to be a fireman.
Yeah.
I thought they were badass.
Yeah, they can be pretty badass.
I think because I just wanted to help people,
mm-hmm.
and I thought it was like the coolest thing to save people's lives.
Yeah.
Which I ended up. I mean, I guess I still embodied the helping people. I don't know if I've saved lives, but I know I've helped a lot of people with whatever demons they had internally.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I saved them internally.
Okay.
Firefighters, I still think they're pretty awesome, and they have the coolest trucks.
Yeah, they do. They do. My youngest brother used to be a firefighter before he became a nurse, and he wrecked the truck. So that's why you can't park near fire hydrant.
Yeah.
So, but
that's crazy.
Yeah, he said their biggest. He was in a small town, so there wasn't a whole lot to do. He said their biggest thing was the annual "Don't Kill Yourself Frying a Turkey" demonstration. So,
I don't think I've ever had a fried turkey.
Really, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to be really careful. Yeah,
I would assume because you're
okay.
It's a lot of oil you're using.
Yeah, they're pretty big containers full of oil, full of hot oil, and when you put an ice cold bird into it, then the oil tends to want to explode. So yeah, so you have to be very careful with that. And yeah, I've never fried a turkey. I've had fried turkey before, but I smoke my turkeys. So yeah,
that sounds
got to
delicious.
get a big rolling paper and yeah.
Nice.
So yeah. So, any particular lessons you've gotten from any of your more memorable clients? In that, let's get some stories.
Yeah.
No names, of course.
Huh. Absolutely. I can't give those names.
Right.
I had one client who, when I talk about, like that deeper belief or like that deeper thing that's going, he didn't, in his subconscious, did not believe he could work and have fun at the same time. And that doesn't even mean having fun while working, but it meant he couldn't be in work mode, like creating something work-wise and having fun. So he would go through these periods of like a year or two where he would like really go in do work, make tons of money, like hundreds of thousands,
Mm-hmm.
and then at one point realize, holy crap, I've got no freedom and I'm not having any fun and I'm not enjoying any of this money. He would completely stop working, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
go be a nomad, go live in Tulum, go live in wherever, and essentially spend all his money, have all the fun. And then he had this subconsciously, he knew when he saw his bank account at 10,000,
Mm-hmm.
the switch came on, and then he was like, it's time to work again. So then he'd cut out, and when I say work, I mean he wouldn't have relationships. He wouldn't go out at night. He would barely hang out with friends. So it was purely like work or fun. And here's the thing. This guy's very this guy's a coach, and he helped people essentially reconnect to themselves, like tap into their
Mm-hmm.
heart. When you One of the things is, sometimes we don't know, we can't see things like someone from the outside can see, right?
Right.
That's why I hired a mentor, because you can't,
Mm-hmm.
it's your subconscious. You can't see it. And as he's describing all of this, I'm like, wow, you're really doing all this? Do you not realize this pattern? And he was like, oh shit. I'm like, all right, well, once we like realized what the problem was, we were able to just like knock it out. And his perspective completely changed. And now for work, and mind you, he didn't even have to like, you've got to start thinking about embodying this, but essentially
Mm-hmm.
once you just like flip the switch internally, I mean, now he's actually helping people express themselves in work. Like he's helping people with their brands to be able to have fun and work. And it's like he took all those things and then actually made it part of his business, which is incredible to think about. You want some more stories?
Sure. We can
All
go
right.
wherever you want.
That's like a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
I had a client that's Ukrainian,
Okay.
and she had some stuff with this freedom thing as well. And we
Mm-hmm.
actually realized it was like a pattern that was passed down through the generations, because her family in the Ukraine were all rebels against Russia,
Mm-hmm.
and passing down that sense of not feeling free
Mm-hmm.
went from generation to generation to generation. And she was one that, expressed it, where she essentially worked until her body gave out and she ended up in the hospital, or like she lost her voice. All these things would happen. So she would work herself to the point where her body was like, you can't keep working. So through this sense of like not being free, she created an environment where she was, a top producer in real estate, where she was like realtor of the year in one of the states. And she was essentially working herself to the point where if she kept going, she'd kill herself, right? And once we flipped the switch, uh, it's like she started to leverage way more of her time. She actually had a business with her mom, and they were partners, but they weren't synced together and doing things where I'm good at this, you're good at that, let's bring it together.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's tough when internally you don't feel free. When you don't feel free, you've got to do more to feel free, right?
Right.
But she was able to make a few switches that happen naturally, and this is kind of where the strategy comes in as well, right? Sometimes your environment in the moment is not what you'd like, so strategy comes in to, all right, let's change it. But now she's killing it at an even higher level. She's working way less. She's able to travel and make money at the same time. I mean, it's wild. So
it's amazing
pretty
what.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing what you can do when you finally reach that freedom, that to do what you were meant to do. You know what you were made for. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That you can help people do that. Now your website's the Potentialist.
dash
The dash
potentialist.com.
Potentialist. Okay.
And if
I'll
you
put
go
that up in the description.
Yeah. If you go to the resources page, I've got some free stuff. And like
Cool.
what Bill just said, he, kind of knowing why you're doing things, what you're meant to do. So knowing your purpose is important. I actually have an exercise on there that can help people. It's called 7 Levels Deep. And essentially it's just getting deeper as to why you're doing what you're doing. So if you want to be successful, why do you want to be successful? And if you go down 7 levels, you get to a deeper purpose, which helps you kind of reconnect with yourself and realize like why you're truly doing what you're doing. It's a very powerful exercise, and some of the people get to like 4 or 5 levels and they're like, I don't know what the next one is. You sit there, keep doing it. You get to the 7th level, it's like an aha moment. And it brings so much clarity.
Yeah. I've used a similar exercise before with people, and you start getting 3, 4, 5 levels deep, and the change can start to be just remarkable with people. And when you finally get down to the bottom, then things get clear. Which like to call back to NLP is the whole point, to find out what you've covered up. Still there, David?
Exactly. So
okay, good. I lost you on video, but we should be fine. So cool. Let's see. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
What else would you like to know? I could talk for 5 hours if you wanted me to.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants that.
I was on a call with someone, and I was like, one of my gifts is you could literally tell me like 2 random things, and I could go and I could create a speech on the spot.
Nice.
Based like connecting the two. And I was like, you could ask me about puppies and business mindset. And she was, really? Do it. And I was like, oh. Like, yes. Like, all right. So I was like 5 or 6 minutes in, and she was like, oh, okay. I believe you. Like, all right, cool.
Okay, that's pretty cool. It's a pretty neat gift, kind of a human chat GPT. So,
right?
Yep. Hold on.
I'm gonna use that in my bio. Human chat GPT.
Slowly but surely being replaced. What are your big plans? What are you pushing towards over the next year to 3 years? Let's say.
The year to 3 years is really growing this. I call it strategic advising company, and I also invest in businesses and real estate. So
Okay.
I'm looking to grow that portfolio. Really interested in the health and wellness space.
Mm-hmm.
So I've identified a few franchises I'm interested in. And I
Okay.
think in the next 3 years, what I'd like to own is a, a strip mall
Mm.
where every single store, supermarket, every single retail space has something to do with health and wellness,
Okay.
where you can have a yoga studio, you can have a juice bar, a healthy restaurant, maybe like an anchor of Trader Joe's and or Whole Foods, whatever the healthy supermarkets are.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking a look at like the future of gym, which is using biohacking. Which, if you don't know what biohacking is, it's essentially getting better results for your body and your mind in a lot less time. So, for example, if you're looking to uh, lose weight, drinking a freshly squeezed lemon every single morning,
Mm-hmm.
first thing, can actually help increase your metabolism. And whenever you take a shower, you
Mm-hmm.
take a warm shower and you're just cold for the last whatever. In the beginning, you might just do 5 or 10 seconds, but every single time you do it a little bit more. And cold therapy actually helps your metabolism. So
Okay.
just doing those few two things could like lead to shedding some weight. So they're taking that kind of thinking to a gym and they're mixing AI with machines
Mm.
to be able to personalize different uh, workouts for you and then having the recovery. So all of the stuff essentially that NASA uses and the professional sports team use, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
what they've invested in aren't just the actual workouts, it's the recovery after those
Right.
workouts. Because recovery can actually increase the effectiveness of whatever you just did prior to.
Mm.
So I'm looking at this futuristic gym, and a lot of other things. So eventually I'll own a few of the retail businesses in my own
Mm-hmm.
shopping center. And then I'll have other ones that are ancillary. And I believe that will, once it's known that this is the health and wellness shopping center, it'll just be a hub for people that like that stuff. Two, because it'll any business that goes there will naturally just increase their revenue. So I'll be
Mm-hmm.
able to charge a premium in rent while still providing so much more value to all of the tenants because of the community and the hub that I've created. So
Sure.
that in
Sure.
the next 2 to 3 years is one of my projects.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and availability
Yeah.
is a big reason why a lot of people don't do these things. Knowledge and availability. I mean, the knowledge part is easy. I mean, you go on YouTube and you can find all sorts of this kind of stuff. But it's like, oh, well, where do I go? How do I find all this stuff? If you put it in one place, that makes it pretty easy. Kind of eliminates a lot of the excuses. So I think
Exactly.
that's a really great, a really
Yeah.
yeah,
Then you
cool.
have someone leaves one of the gyms or something and is like, or yoga, and they're like, man, I really want a juice, and the juice is right there.
Yep.
After the juice, you got a whole little crew of people. Let's go to the restaurant. You have the restaurant right there, and it's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
people that are already in space, and I think it's going to promote it, as you said, being available. It's going to be easier for other people who maybe aren't as it's not a part of their habits
Right.
because they don't know where to go. But if it's all right there, one day they can just say, you know what, I'm going there and I'm just seeing what I want to do. And then they just do.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yep. Start making healthy habits, which some of us need
Mhm.
to do more than others. I definitely need to improve my healthy habits. I was doing pretty good before the move, but not having running water has really taken a bite out of those habits. So I'm going to have to get back into it now that we've got the house together in that way.
And here's the thing: you got the running water now, and you've got the
Yeah,
mindset of I'm going to do this, and you just start now. It doesn't matter
yeah,
what you were before. Right now, you're
right.
focused on this, and you keep going
Moving
with it.
forward, moving forward,
That's
forward
it.
ever forward. Yep.
Of course.
And get all that. So cool. Well, let's see. The website is the-potentialist.com. I'll put the website in the description so people can find it real easily and get over there and start getting some help. And yeah, this will be a great
Yeah.
one. So
Yeah,
cool. Well,
I
thank you
think
so
so.
much.
Thank you
And
for having me, Bill. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all that you do for your listeners and for just creating this platform. As you said, part of these things are availability, and you're
mhm.
making this knowledge more available to more people. And that's truly a blessing for a lot of people. And it's
I hope
because
so.
of you. So thank you.
It's been a real pleasure having you on, David. Um, yeah, David Corsini, the was it Activated Potential, right? Wait,
Mm-hmm. And you
yeah,
can
the
find
Activated
me on
Potential.
social media. Yeah, you can find me on social media as the Potentialist.
Okay, the Potentialist on social media, and yeah, get hooked up, and yeah, and looking forward to seeing your healthy strip malls and stuff start to pop
Yeah,
up.
man. When
All
you
right. Well,
get noisy, take a look.
hopefully we'll get some copycats out here in the Midwest. If you don't get out here first. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Definitely thank you, David, for being here and providing some rich content for our people. Remember to stay safe out there, wash your hands, and remember to stay tuned for the ending credits.
Thank you all for tuning in.
This has been a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. I'd like to thank my producer, my beloved mother, Eileen Hatch. I, of course, am your humble host.
I'd like to thank my special guest, David Corsini.
Support the show if you feel so led over on patreon.com. We're known as Bald Spots Pro. Don't you dare miss YWL Online. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever fine podcasts are offered.
Be sure to tune in next time when my special guest will be Harry Kappen.
Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people.
If you or someone you know needs support now, call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. That is the suicide and crisis lifeline here in the United States.